IAS Academy.
Hello all, welcome to IAS Academy and welcome back to the program Editorial Daily, where we deal with editorial analysis which enriches your perspective and enhances your answer writing preparations. So let's get started with our today's session. Okay. Yes, the first article for today is a unified policy architecture for India's energy future. Okay, so this article basically argues that the India now needs an integrated energy policy that can guide its transition towards the energy sector, affordability, and the sustainability. Okay, so India has made a remarkable progress in the energy sector. It has in energy sector, India has given a remarkable progress over the past decades. Like, it achieved near the universal household electrification, it expanded the access to the clean cooking fuel, emerged as one of the world's fastest growing renewable energy markets. So, and it has set the ambitious targets of 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity by 2030. Okay, and also energy independence by, and also it is planning to attain the energy independence by 2047 and the net zero emission country by 2070. These are what the India is planning. I mean, it's set an ambitious targets. Okay, so let us see this article completely and then how it linked to the topics of our GS paper. Okay, let's see. Yes, we'll see. The topic is a unified policy architecture for India's energy future. Okay, so the source from which is Indian National Science Academy, INSA, a policy brief which is of May 2026. Okay, how can we link this article to the syllabuses? We can link to the GS paper 3, stating the infrastructure, energy, economic development, environmental conservation. And yes, how can we link this to the syllabus of our, to the GS papers? Is for GS paper 3, we can link this to the infrastructure, basically the energy, economic development, environmental conservation, scientific innovation, and discoveries. In GS paper 2, we can link this article to the topics like government policies and interventions for development in various sectors. Okay, now let us see the context of the topic and how the context of the topic goes. The context basically says that it is a policy brief released by the Indian National Science Academy, the INSA, in May 2026, which highlights the critical need for a unified national energy framework to align India's diverse energy resources, technologies, and the institutions as a country aims for the energy self-reliance by 2047, which we've been calling as Vikshit Bharat. Okay, and net zero emission by 2070. This is what our main targets are. Okay, now let's see the introduction of the topic. How can we go to the introduction? The introduction goes like, over the past decade, India has fundamentally transformed its energy landscape, achieving the near universal household electrification through the Shubhodaya scheme, the expanding clean cooking access via the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwal Yojana, and also scaling its renewable energy capacity from approximately 40 gigawatts in 2015 to 260 gigawatts by 2025. Okay, so however, as India confronts the dual challenge of sustaining the rapid economic growth and meeting its green commitments, the next phase of its energy transition can no longer operate in the sectoral side sales. Okay, so managing the overlapping priorities of the security, affordability, and the sustainability requires a shift toward a integrated whole of system governance model. Okay, yes, let us see the core challenges of India's energy matrix. What is it? The first one is the import vulnerability. Import vulnerability in the sense, despite of this massive expansions in the domestic energy production, India remains heavily dependent on imports for a significant share of its crude oil and natural gas requirements, exposing it to a global geopolitical shocks. Okay. Next, the second thing is surging the demand driven by growth. Okay, so, what is it? It is the rapid industrialization, urbanization, and overall economic development, which mean that India's total energy demand will continue to grow exponentially over the coming decades. Okay, And the third one is the institutional fragmentations. Institutional fragmentations, like as the energy ecosystem becomes more diverse, there is a lack of cohesive coordination between the energy generation, transmission, storage, distribution, and emerging technological sectors. Okay. Yes, the INSA has four pillars of the INSA framework. The framework which is given by the INSA has four pillars. The first one is the adequacy. What is this adequacy? Is its sources a reliable and diversified supply portfolio by balancing both conventional energy sources like coal and gas with the emerging ones. Okay, so it backed by the advanced energy storage system and the digital technologies to eliminate the long-term structural vulnerabilities. Okay, and the second set of the pillar is the axis. How come? It emphasizes the equitable and reliable energy distribution to all the citizens, which is moving past more connectivity towards improving last mile delivery quality and deploying the decentralized energy solutions. Examples we can take, like the mini grids, the solar pumps, and where necessary. Okay, yes. And the third one, a third pillar, is the affordability in the sense which ensures that the green transition does not improves which does not improves a punitive financial burden on the households. Okay, so this requires an innovative climate financing mechanism, which basically comes up like what you say, which competitive markets and the targeted consumer focused safeguards. Okay, and the last pillar for this INS framework is the appropriate sustainability. See, it rejects a western one size fits all model of decarbonization. Okay, so it advocates for tailored pathways which is aligned with India's unique socio-economic realities and resource the endowments, explicitly incorporating the workforce reskilling, the local community support, and region specific transition timelines. Okay, these are the four pillars of the INS framework. And next comes the a phased and the holistic transition strategy. How this strategy has come up is, first is cross cutting the technological enablers, like integrating the circular economy practices and the carbon capture, utilization, and the storage technologies to decarbonize hard to abate industrial sectors. Okay, the second one is near term priorities, like strengthening the transmission infrastructure, aggressively developing the utility scale renewables, and funding the emerging tech like green hydrogen. Okay, and also establishing a permanent institutional mechanism for interministerial coordination. Okay, and next is the long term evolution. And yes, how can we come up with the conclusion is India's energy transition is not merely a capacity expansion exercise. It is an exercise in structural state building. Okay, to unlock its full potential, India must stop viewing the coal, renewables, biomass, and the natural gas as competing factions, and instead view them as a complementary parts of an integrated whole. Okay, and adopting a unified policy architecture provides a constructive roadmap to safeguard national energy security, empower the local communities, and guarantee a sustainable environment for generations to come. Okay, this is what the article is mainly talking about. And for today, let's see the next article. And yes, the next article for today is on curbing the young adults on the social media. On curbing young adults on the social media. Okay. Yes. So the editorial examines whether the government should impose age-based restrictions on social media use. Age-based restrictions. Okay. Age-based restrictions. Basically, this editorial is talking about this age-based restrictions on the social media use to impose what you called it argues that simply banning the access is not enough. So instead the focus should be on making the social media platforms safer and more accountable. Okay, so the debate gained the attention after this Australia announced a policy to ban social media for children under 16 years of age. Okay, so similar discussions are taking place in countries such as France, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Canada itself. So in India too, there have been demands to regulate the children access to the social media. So the central question it is arising is, should governments ban children from social media, or should they regulate the platform themselves? This is what the question is mainly raising about. Okay, now let us see what is this article is mainly talking about, and what are the restrictions has to be taken, and all we'll see in this article. Okay, let's see. Yes, the topic is on curbing the young adults on social media, which is the source of the Hindu editorials of 17 May 2025. Okay, the syllabus which we can link this article to our GS paper is for GS paper 2. You can link this article to the government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and the issues relating to the development and management of social sectors or services like educational vulnerable sections. Okay, and GS paper 3, you can link this topic as the challenges to internal security through communication networks, the role of media and social networking states in the internal security challenges like cyber security. Okay, and let us see how the context of this topic is going, and what is the context, and how can we come up with the introduction to this. See, the recent announcement by the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to ban the social media for children under 16 years, that is the minor children. So similar initiatives in Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, France, and Canada has triggered the intense debate in India regarding the efficacy and the ethics and parasitalities of outright social media bans for young adults. Okay, yes, coming to the introduction of the topic, we can talk as a global governments increasingly turn towards the legislative bans to curb the social media access for individuals under the age 16, majorly targeting the teenagers which are under 16. A critical examination of the policy approach reveals the significant flaws, like while protecting the children from these digital harms like universal priority, scientific concerns of the direct correlation between the social media use and harm remains the heavily debated. Okay, so relying on this blanket bans often overlooks the socio-economic and digital disparities among the users, ultimately serving as an ineffective and legislative shortcut that distracts from the harder task of holding the tech platforms which are accountable for their addictive designs. Okay, so let us see the flawed premise of the blanket bans. Okay, the flawed premise of the blanket bans. The first one is lack of scientific consensus. Like if we see the scientific literate does not offer a uniform consensus, so the social media usually usage universally equates to the harmful experiences. So the young adults respond to similar online environments differently based on their socio-economic and digital backgrounds. Okay, next, the second thing is the educational value versus the risk. While the extent to which the social media aids learning to the debatable outright bans fail to identify and target the specific conditions, so that makes the certain subcategories of children more vulnerable than the others. Okay, so yes, why these bans are ineffective, and why are these being the counterproductive thing is, we'll see the first thing is the technological circumvention, like see the stout mechanisms for age verification do not certainly currently exist. Like the teenagers easily bypass these bans by using the credentials from the willing family members or the older persons, okay, older peers, or by the utilizing the technological workarounds, examples like VPNs. Okay, these VPNs also have been using. The next is the culture of the evasion. Coming to the culture of evasion, there is a deep anxiety that is improving easily bypassed bars with incubate and which are inculcate an ingrained culture of finding the workarounds among young adults. So, a behavior that could eventually extend to the ignoring offline legal responsibilities. Okay. Now, the third is the migration to darker spaces. Like, see, the Australian experience indicates that the age gating mainstream social media platforms simply pushes under 16s to migrate to less entrenched, potentially less safe and unregulated digital services. Okay. And the last one is the privacy threat. Like, see, enforcing these bans requires platforms to collect the sensitive identity data for age verification. So, this inevitable, this inadvertently legitimizes the mass harvesting children's data and poses the severe privacy panics. Okay, next. The next is, how come this alternative like platform governance and accountability could help in this concern? Let's see. When we see this, the alternative platform and the governance accountability, the first comes the attention economy. The attention economy, like, see, this addiction is not a bug basically. It is a central to the aim and operator of the converged media environment. Okay, and the platforms cannot compete without this insulting in instituting some forms of user dependency by the design. Okay, the next is the shifting the focus. How to shifting this focus comes up is, instead of policing the vulnerable users, policy should legally oblige the platforms to be transparent regarding their algorithmic design and the provision for safe spaces. Okay, and the third one is the government reluctance. Like, see, when you come up, the government often find its legislative convenient and the socially acceptable to blame the users, like the age gate age gating, rather than face the complex structural barriers of holding the powerful social media giants accountable. Okay, so many governments rely on these very platforms to promote their own political interests. Okay, yes. Yes, coming to the conclusion of the topic, how can we conclude this article is, basically correlating the access to the social media for this young adults is an easier policy option than the forcing tech platforms to re-engineer their addictive business models. However, these bans are not well-rounded regulatory strategy. Okay, so policymakers advocating for these restrictions must definitely prove that case against these platforms, and they anticipate the massive enforcement burden on the judicial and regulatory bodies and recognize the severe privacy risks associated with the mandatory age verification. Okay, so the true online safety requires the systemic platform governance, not just the digital illusion. Okay, yes, these are the topics which we can discuss. And yes, these are the two articles for today. The one is the social media bans, and one is about the India's energy future, which we have talked. Okay, I hope you all like this video. If you want a complete content of it, do visit our website and download the PDF from there. And do follow, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And do follow our Instagram ID and Telegram ID as well. All the links are provided in the description below. I'll see you all tomorrow with another editorial analysis. Thank you.